Absolutely. Here's a 500-word story centered around the topic. 10 things trauma survivors can relate to, written as a heartfelt, reflective narrative. 10 things trauma survivors can relate to, a story of quiet strength. Maya had never liked talking about her past. It wasn't that she was ashamed. It just felt too big, too tangled, like a box that once opened might never close again. But she had survived. That much was true. She had made it through things she never thought she could, and on the quiet nights, she reminded herself of that. She remembered the first time someone told her, "You seem so strong." She smiled politely, but inside she felt like glass held together with invisible glue. That's one thing trauma survivors often relate to, the strange way people confuse survival with strength. But surviving wasn't a choice. It was something Maya did because she had to. There were other things too, like always scanning a room for exits or feeling her heart race at sounds others didn't even notice. Hypervigilance. That's what the therapist called it. Maya just thought of it as being careful, always alert, always braced for something bad to happen. She hated how she'd sometimes pull away from people even when she wanted to be close. Trust came slowly. Physical touch, slower. Some days, even a hug felt like a trap. Not because she didn't want connection, but because her nervous system still hadn't gotten the memo that she was safe now. And then there was the guilt, the quiet voice that whispered, "Why are you still affected by this?" Or worse, others have had it worse. Maya had learned to silence that voice, but it still visited her sometimes, like an uninvited guest knocking on the door of her mind. She could also relate to the way certain dates on the calendar held weight no one else could see. Anniversaries of events she never talked about. She'd feel it coming in her body first, a tightness in her chest, a restlessness in her legs, before her mind even recognized the date. But not all of it was dark. There were moments of deep empathy, a friend going through heartbreak, a coworker showing signs of burnout. Maya noticed things others missed. Trauma had tuned her into the emotions of others, sometimes painfully so, but it had also made her incredibly compassionate. She'd learned to celebrate small victories, a full night's sleep, laughing without tension, saying no and not explaining herself. Those wins were huge. Things others took for granted were mountains she had to climb. And perhaps the most beautiful thing, she had an unshakable connection with other survivors. Even without words, they understood each other. A glance, a shared silence, a nod. They had walked through fire, and though their scars were different, their strength was the same. Maya didn't share all 10 things with everyone, but when she did, it was with intention, with someone who earned her truth. She wasn't defined by what happened to her, but she honored it. It shaped her, taught her resilience, and gave her a depth she carried with quiet dignity. Would you like to pick a short excerpt from this story to turn into a voiceover sample? Just let me know what part and which voice you'd like. Alloy, Echo, Fable, Onyx, Nova, or Shimmer. Of course, here's a continuation of Maya's story, adding another 500 words to explore her growth and insight as a trauma survivor. Healing, Maya had learned, wasn't linear. It didn't follow a clean path from pain to peace. It was more like walking through a forest at night. You stumble, circle back, find new trails, and sometimes just stand still under the weight of it all. Some days, she felt proud of how far she'd come. Other days, she barely made it out of bed. Both were valid. Both were part of the process. She had also come to understand that triggers weren't signs of failure. They were reminders, of wounds that once tore her apart but had since been stitched back together with time, therapy, and sheer willpower. When something unexpectedly rattled her, a phrase, a scent, a scene in a movie, she no longer berated herself. Instead, she paused, grounded herself, and remembered, this is a moment. It will pass. And it always did. Community became a lifeline. Not the kind full of forced positivity or toxic encouragement, but the raw, honest spaces where people told the truth about their pain and progress. In online forums and quiet support groups, she met others who had been through storms of their own. They didn't speak in platitudes. They didn't flinch when she told her truth. They simply nodded, held space, and said, "Me too." And in those moments, Maya felt less alone. One surprising part of the journey was learning boundaries. For so long, Maya had thought being agreeable was the only way to stay safe. She'd said yes when she meant no, stayed silent when something hurt, laughed to avoid confrontation. But little by little, she began to reclaim her voice. Saying no was awkward at first, terrifying even, but it grew easier, empowering, like she was choosing herself, one sentence at a time. She also learned to recognize the armor she'd worn for so long. The independence that was praised by others, it was forged from years of not knowing who she could rely on. The calm demeanor during chaos, that was survival mode. But now she was learning it was okay to let people in, to ask for help, to not have it all together. Maya found unexpected joy in small rituals, lighting a candle before journaling, taking long walks in the morning air, listening to music that matched her mood instead of trying to escape it. She found beauty in reclaiming her story, not erasing the pain, but embracing all the parts of herself that had emerged because of it. She was not broken, she was becoming. And maybe the most powerful realization? She didn't owe anyone her story. She didn't have to explain why certain things were hard or why healing was slow. Her experience was valid, even if others didn't understand it. And for the ones who did, who listened, who stayed, who held her through it, she was endlessly grateful. Maya still had bad days, but now she had the tools, the awareness, and the grace to face them. And that, she realized, was its own kind of triumph. Let me know if you'd like to turn a powerful moment from this into an AI voiceover. Just pick 2 sentences and your preferred voice. Alloy, Echo, Fable, Onyx, Nova, or Shimmer? Absolutely. Here's an additional 200-word paragraph to continue Maya's story. There was a quiet strength that came from surviving what once felt unsurvivable. Maya carried that with her now, not like a weight, but like a badge. Not everyone could see it, and she didn't need them to. She no longer sought validation in other people's understanding. Her healing was hers. It didn't need to be explained, justified, or proven. That in itself was freedom. There was power in how she now chose her peace, how she protected her energy, how she allowed herself to feel joy without guilt. She still had moments when fear crept in, when old thoughts tried to reclaim space in her mind, but now she knew how to face them. She had rebuilt herself piece by piece, not into who she was before, but into someone wiser, softer, and stronger. Someone who knew how to hold space for others because she had learned how to hold space for herself. And when she looked back, not with shame but with quiet reverence, she realized something simple but true. Trauma had shaped her, yes, but it would never define her. Her story was still unfolding, and this time, she was the one holding the pen. Want to turn this into a voice clip? Just pick 2 sentences and your preferred voice.